Seeing as how we've reached the hour of 8:30, I'd like to call the Law and Government Liquor Committee meeting to order. Can we have a roll call, please?
Van Haan.
Present.
Sullivan.
Here.
Kunkel.
Here.
Sager.
Here.
Campbell.
Here.
Shorten.
Here.
Alta.
Also here. So assuming everyone's had an opportunity to review the minutes, may I receive a motion to approve the minutes as presented? Mr. Sager, seconded by Mr. Shorten. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Brian, public comment, there's nobody there, is there?
Correct.
Thank you. Any member comments this morning? Excellent. Reports. We have an official presentation this morning by Sheriff Tatelman. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
First up, man.
I guess.
But it says on my agenda. I'm only going by my
I
agenda.
like it. Good morning, everyone. How are you doing? I'm gonna have a video, yeah. Give me a second, I'll pull it up here. Sure. It'd be a YouTube video. Is that all right? Yeah.
Can we do that? Not
Want me to do it on this one?
standing?
Yeah. I'll let you drive. Just get you to a web browser. How's everyone doing?
Good, thank you.
So what I'm gonna talk about today is CoPro Media. In February, we had, the Illinois Sheriff's Association had our winter meeting. And during that meeting, Laura Cole, who was a, forgive me, I don't remember the full bio, but she was a news reporter on the West Coast and had done a lot of reporting on law enforcement incidents, a lot of shootings and whatnot, and had taken, seen the distrust in the public, broke off from that, moved to Florida, and then started her CoPro Media company. They do productions of critical incident videos. That's what I'm going to show you guys today. So I'm sure you've seen them before. It's an overview of an incident, gives you the background, uses body cam footage, in-car camera, radio traffic, to go step by step to explain the process of an incident that occurred, as opposed to just letting the public make their own decision on a body cam and then clipping it how they want to clip it. So really it's driving the narrative, but also being truthful with the entire investigation. So the Illinois Sheriff's Association had vetted them, and we've actually used them a couple times already, unfortunately. But I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about it, only because obviously you all are aware we had a critical incident where we had a barricaded subject, and we ended up having to use deadly force on that individual. MEOT, the Major Investigative Assistance Team, was the one that came out and did the investigation. So that's a total separate thing, right? The investigation is totally separate. It is our responsibility as Sheriff's Office, law enforcement, to be transparent once that case is cleared. Historically, the state's attorney had released a bunch of videos, but I've talked with Randy about this. This is going to save their office a bunch of time. There is an expense to it. We're going to be able to cover in the budget, but God forbid we run into these incidents, we may be having to come back and talk to you guys. It's $6,000. I know you're going to ask that. I saw the question on your lips.
But no, that's my.
It's always on the lips.
But even beyond that, I guess my question is, how do you determine when you're going to utilize this? Is it any?
Every single law enforcement shooting, we're going to push this out, right?
Okay.
When we're in the right and in the wrong. This is now turning into the expectation and industry standard. So we figured that this is, we need to jump on board with this as well. And I think one of the things that happened in this incident specific was that we ended up staying on Sheriff's Main. So that's our main channel. It's not encrypted, which means that everyone in the world was able to hear it. As tactics go, it was not good. But because we had Lakewood, we had Crystal Lake, Conservation, we had a bunch of law enforcement agencies that were in it, as opposed to telling them to look down at their radios and try to go to Zone C, BA, which is encrypted, we just stayed on this channel. By luck, the public heard all that, and they heard all the steps and all the measures that we were taking. which ultimately, gave us in a positive light in the public eye, which is, we're fortunate in this community that we had that anyway. But for that to happen, they've already seen us to have been in the right in this situation. It's unfortunate, but we were kind of, we were shown that it was.
So you can also use this though for training and evaluation purposes. And
100%
on your,
we do.
on
Yeah,
operations.
we use body cam for this all the time.
And who do you release it to, Rob? I mean,
This will go out to the public, this will go out to everyone.
okay, through our.
It'll be through social media, we'll do it through a press release.
March 27, 2024.
Sorry, we'll do it through a press release, we'll do it through social media. This will be posted on our website. I'm sure whether the county wants to pair it up and push it out
Or
or
link
share
it
it or
to-
whatever. And I know the Illinois Sheriff's Association will grab ours and
Okay.
push it out through the association as well. So Riverside County is on the forefront of a lot of media and social media stuff. This, I don't think, was done by Cole Pro, but this is basically what we're gonna be looking at of doing.
So, Rob,
One
is that
second.
reviewed by the state's attorney's office before it's released?
So we'll work with the state's attorney's office, and so what's weird is, body cam footage is the ownership of the agency, and we can do what we want with it. Now, and that, there's always a battle, especially during these incidents, law enforcement is really battling with wanting to get in front of the investigation, but then you have to deal with the public too. So sometimes those videos are pushed out before that case is even, the investigative team has even done it. But if it's clear on video, sometimes and there's an uprising in the public, you have to get in front of it. So there's a little bit of a power balance when it comes to the video. So the video, the body cam, in-car cam is, in my point, they're my videos, and I can push them whenever I want. I'm trying to work with Miat so that they can finish their investigation, clear us, and then shortly thereafter we're able to release a critical incident video. I won't push this out before the case is closed, and I've been working with, and Randy knows about all of this and has been working with. Actually, Laura Scary was going to be here to watch this, but I caught her in the parking lot. She's like, "Oh, I didn't know this is what you were doing." She thought it was going to be a little bit different.
So I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
I know where it occurred.
Yep.
So why didn't the city police have, I know.
It was unincorporated. The house was in an unincorporated Crystal Lake.
It was?
Yeah. Mhm.
I know where it's located. I didn't know that was unincorporated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
All
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Your
So normally
jurisdiction.
it would have.
On the west side of the road, on the west side is ours. On the east side, I think maybe that whole road is ours. And forgive me, it's been a minute since I've been on the road
Yeah.
because those changed.
The east side might be.
It might be Crystal Lakes.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's typical for county. We always have like the one
Okay.
house.
Because I know we just love using our body cam in Crystal Lake too.
Yes, no, and so we collected a lot of body cam footage, and I think it's gonna prove, an in-car cam is gonna prove to be beneficial for our agency and for the public to see all the things that we kind of go through. So I will just show you guys what this.
North Vista Way in the city of Colton. When we have a critical incident, we want to share as much information as possible as soon as the investigation allows. On March 27th at 3:23 a.m., the Riverside County Sheriff's Special Enforcement Bureau responded to the 900 block of North Vista Way to serve a search warrant for David Leslie Genero, a suspect wanted for his involvement in a series of armed robberies. Upon arrival, deputies made multiple announcements instructing the occupants of the residence to exit. Eventually, a female exited the residence, and while she was being detained, a male began shooting at deputies, resulting in a deputy-involved shooting. Neither the female nor the deputies were injured during the exchange of gunfire. Deputies eventually entered and cleared the residence. Inside, they located the male, who was identified as Genero. He had sustained a self-inflicted gunshot and was pronounced deceased at the scene. We will now show you body-worn camera video of the involved deputies and footage from our armored vehicle. As a warning, some viewers may find this video disturbing, and it is not suitable for children.
All right, before I move forward, are we cool with me pushing this out? I want to make sure. All right. They give a warning. I want to do the same. I don't want to be.
Matt, get your hands in the air and come out the gate. Let's go. Yeah. Come on out this way. Come here. Get on the ground. Just sit down right here. Just stay right there. You got visual at all?
Hear that? Just hold off on the announcements. Thanks.
Yeah. Come on out this way.
We'll take it.
Come here. Come here. Come
Hey,
here.
CP, we got shots fired. Give us a second to reassess and figure it out. And just to confirm that shots fired from suspect, not us.
Where you at? Yeah, that's me. I got shots on the front window.
David Leslie Genero was a 55-year-old resident of Colton. Genero was armed with 2 rifles and a handgun. When we have a deputy-involved shooting, multiple investigations are automatically launched. An investigator from the San Bernardino County Sheriff's Department Specialized Investigations Division will lead this investigation. This combined investigation will examine the initial contact, Genero's actions, and the deputy-involved shooting. This is an active and ongoing investigation. This incident will ultimately be reviewed by the San Bernardino County District Attorney's Office. Additionally, our department will internally review and evaluate the actions of our deputy with our policy and training standards. We take each use of force very seriously and make every effort to de-escalate these situations whenever possible. Thank you for watching.
So that's what these videos look like. Obviously, pretty transparent with the community. The video is the video, right? I mean, we can't change what the body cam video is, and sometimes they're a little bit brutal. But I think it gives us an opportunity just to show the good work that the guys and the gals are doing on the streets.
Any questions? Mr. Sager?
Thank you, Rob. Appreciate it. First off, is the graphic that is presented at the first, it's built to kind of help people visualize this, is that produced by a particular program that you have? Where does that come from?
That's probably just coming from Google. They'll show the accuracy, and they use Google Maps for that, where they can fly in and then show the
And the police cars coming in and that kind of stuff?
Well, yeah, but that's going to be animated. That'll be Cole Pro will do the animation.
Yeah,
and
that
how
was
it's done.
Cole
Yes, sir.
Pro does that for
Correct.
you. Okay, I am incredibly impressed by the selection of words that this individual had in terms of moderating this particular incident. Is that a standard script from Procol?
Yeah, so they will have scripts, and to be determined if it's just going to be someone from Cole Pro that'll read it from a prompt, or if I'm sitting in front of it. That it is what it is. We'll see how they feel will be best suited for it. I'm indifferent for it, but yeah, that's all scripted.
Yeah, okay, perfect, thanks. I thought it was a brilliant presentation in terms of revealing the factual information, but also doing it in a manner that was very logical, very clear, and select words there that put a calm over the situation.
Yeah, calculated, for sure. Well, and you used the word calm, so what's important about this video, and we'll use the same in our video, is that they had 2 Bearcats. We have our MRAP, and you saw those guys didn't even flinch when I mean, they have the confidence to be behind that armored vehicle. Our guys had the same. I'm going to tell you that is a very important piece of equipment. Those guys are as calm as can be because they know that they have that coverage that they need. So, and we had a very similar type thing happen with ours, where I know we've been taking a lot of slack for having that big MRAP. I tell you right now, that MRAP probably saved some lives. So,
Can anybody else have any questions? I'll save myself for last. How do you intend to roll it out and introduce it to the public? Just through social media and your own?
Yeah, we'll hook up with, we'll push it all out to the media like we normally do on a press release, and we'll give them the opportunity. But through social media, that seems to be the easiest way to get it out to public. And whether media wants to pick it up and play it, they can.
I commend you. I think it's a great tool. I really do. It's excellent. Mr. Short?
What's the timeline generally on these, from time of the incident until something?
4 to 6 weeks, I think, is the general rule of thumb. And a lot of, but they can get, if we said we needed this out tomorrow, they can get through it. The problem is you got to get through a lot of body cam footage. I mean, this is a 2-hour incident, and, you know, the shooting's the shooting, and that lasts maybe 20 seconds. But to be able to paint the big picture, you have to go through 2 hours of stuff. There's certain things that happen during the incident that escalates the incident, and you want to be able to document that through this. So, and to go through, you know, I mean, realistically, we had 50 people out there with all body cams on there. So, I mean, you have to be very selective because you don't have an endless amount of time. I mean, you know, this was 3 minutes, this video, or just short of 4 minutes. To put a 15-minute video out, after 3 minutes, people, I mean, that's probably as long as you can do, is about 4 minutes. Right. Otherwise, people are like, you know what, I don't even care anymore.
Mr. Point, Mr. Kunkel.
And also, that wouldn't be pushed out until after an active investigation's over, correct?
So if there was an active criminal investigation, correct. This one there is, so I guess you can call it a quasi-criminal investigation because they're determining if the shoot was a good shoot or bad shoot, which is a little bit different than a criminal investigation.
Taking in a suspect and there will be charges against that suspect and that has to play out.
Correct.
You can't taint a jury with this going on.
Correct. Well, and there actually is a little bit of difference in opinion in that. In that, you know, again, body cam footage, if information happens to get out, the problem is anyone can FOIA this whenever they want, too.
Right.
So
But
and
they
this
can't studio it, they can just FOIA the body cam.
well, but they could studio it after the body cam if they wanted to on
They
their
can
own,
manipulate.
right?
Yeah.
Which we've seen that too. So I mean, that's a whole separate topic with FOIA as it relates to these videos. So if you can control that narrative, then maybe you do push it out before that criminal investigation is done. If you have an uprising in your respective community, you know what, the criminal investigation they'll have to argue that we tainted it. The facts are the facts, though.
But that will be under your discretion at that
Correct.
point.
Correct.
Any other questions? Again, very much appreciated that you shared this with us before it goes out. Really
Sounds
appreciate
good.
it.
All right.
Thank you.
Guys.
Thank you. Moving on, there is no new business. Legislative update. Can I actually come up, Alicia? We've actually been kind of working internally, and we've established a little bit of a new policy that I would like Alicia to kind of go over with you. She has distributed a letter that we've sent out, and I'll let you go ahead and explain what we've done in conjunction with me as chair, the chairman of the board, as well as internal staff with regard to our legislative agenda.
All right.
Thanks.
Good morning, members of the Law and Government Committee. For those who are watching at home, my name is Alicia Schuler, Director of Public Affairs, and I'd like to give you my legislative report today. As Chair Althoff has said, we have rolled out a new policy practice in regards to truly substantial legislation. As you can see in the first paragraph of my report, I go over deadlines, and we are in the point of the General Assembly where bills start to move very quickly. And it came to our attention that there was a piece of legislation, House Bill 3363, that would dramatically alter the landscape of the criminal justice system. It is a bill to create a state public defender's office, and it would change the way that county public defenders are selected and even removed from office. It would potentially change the standards for how public defense is conducted all across the state of Illinois. And it could potentially provide funding, but that's not guaranteed. So
It currently is supposed to provide funding.
but it's one of those lovely,
so.
it's one of those bills that says subject to appropriation, right, which is always, a question mark. So again, once we became aware of this legislation and given the rapid deadlines, and when I say we, I mean Chair Althoff and Chairman Bueller, in coordination with administration staff, did a bit of investigation. We contacted the courts and Court Administrator Dan Wallace, the Chief Judge, and of course the Public Defender of McHenry County and Mark Cook to better understand how this legislation would impact our court system. Because again, we are not the subject matter experts on, how a piece of legislation would impact us. So after reviewing the legislation and discussing and learning from the courts who have not taken a position on this, I would like to add, we did discover that the bill would have two potential violations of our legislative tenets. The first is the loss of local control, and the second is potential for unfunded mandates. Given that, we decided to push out a letter to our state senators because our House folks have already passed the bill.
And we would not take a position if this bill had remained in a chamber, but because it has passed and had received that approval and is now moving to the second chamber, there's some urgency and some interest that we need to maintain.
Exactly. So with that, you can see that the letter that we sent out is before you right now for your review, and it spells out the different reasons why we feel that it is contrary to the tenets of our legislative program. So I'm going to stop right there. Do you have any questions for me right now?
Yes, what is driving this, in your opinion?
I can answer that question. What's driving the legislation is that there are numerous counties in the state of Illinois that are this small and don't have the financial resources to provide a public defender. And so they've been saying for a long time that the state should provide that opportunity, and that's really what's driving it. And I'll let Alicia give you, we had an update. We talked with ISACO on a committee call yesterday, and there was a little bit of an update and potentially a solution.
Illinois is one of only a handful of states that funds public defense locally. Right? There's a constitutional right for everyone to have public defense, but Illinois is one of a handful of states that put it on the back of the local county.
Surprise. So what's in front of you really today is a new policy. We will now, if we create another letter with regard to a piece of legislation that has passed one chamber and is the other one, we will also send that out to you. We were holding this so that we could explain the new policy and give a little bit of perspective to it. In the future, you will receive the letter when the letter goes out to our legislators. Just in the event you have a relationship or you bump into one of them, you will be just as informed as everybody else about what the issue is. And again, I want to stress internally, the public defenders, the court administration, our administration, the chairman, everybody is aware of what we're doing. This is not done, lightly.
I'd also like to make one request though. If we do send, and when we do send out letters, should another issue like this arise, please do not do a reply all on the email. That was my big concern. So again, if you've got questions, feel free to give me a call. I'm always happy to, speak with you. But again, Open Meetings Act, that is our responsibility to make sure we are holding in. If you know the drill. I'm sorry.
Can you also update us, just a minute, Brian, I'm sorry, and then I'll call on Mr. Sager. Can you update us on the committee call that we had yesterday with our county association?
Yes. So yesterday, ISACO held the Law and Justice Committee where members from different counties come together and discuss bills of interest, in the law and justice sphere. This bill came up as a piece of legislation we were discussing, and one of the more interesting pieces is that some of the counties on the call were not aware that some individuals from public defenders' offices in their counties had filed witness slips in support of the legislation. So again, there was a bit of a concern of, from these board members, about whether or not a position had been formally taken. So again, there was a concern there, and to make sure that everybody had the options available for them, the committee decided to make it so that Joe McCoy, the executive director of ISACO, would submit a letter to the champions of the bill, the sponsors of the bill, to say that we would like an opt-out version of the bill and put an amendment forward for that, so that counties could make the decision themselves as to whether or not they wanted to be a part of the legislation.
A statewide program as opposed to keeping local control.
Right.
So that is something that obviously we're very supportive of. We'd rather choose our own public defender to represent our area of people as opposed to having the state select someone for us.
And I'd be happy to elaborate a little bit more on how the bill works. So as it stands, our local judges pick the public defender. And the reason behind it is because the local judges watch attorneys come before them every day, and they know which ones, are good, which ones, put in the work, which ones come prepared, et cetera. And that influences their decision as to whom they put forward as a public defender. However, there have been different philosophies on how a public defender should be chosen. There are some of the opinion that public defenders are then beholden to your local court your judges. So again, there were some that felt that there should be a state commission that appoints local defenders instead. An amendment came back through this bill saying that there would be a split process, so that instead of removing the control completely from the local judges, they would have a nominating committee where a chief judge and one or two folks that that person decided to include on that committee could come forward along with the state public defender and their appointees to nominate someone, and then the state would make the ultimate appointment. So again, but this still, this still does remove local control that existed previously. So again, there's different ideas on how that could be remedied too. There's an opt-out. So again, but this is an ongoing process. It is something that has come, and when I say process, I mean that this legislation has come before the Senate before, it has come before the General Assembly before. So again, this is something that's been coming for years, and this time it's had more traction than the previous General Assemblies.
And I'm sure you've read your capital facts, it is true. The House always says they'll fix it in the Senate, so hopefully they'll fix it in the Senate. We'll see what happens. Questions? Mr. Sager, did you have a question? And then Mr.
Yeah,
Short.
first, I think it's important that we kind of, I know we're not voting on this, but I think we need to kind of divide the question in a sense, because one is the new policy, and I think that's a great new policy. I think that it provides the flexibility that we need as a county in terms of responding, because things in these last hours of the legislative session, of course, start to go very quickly. So we can't always meet before every single thing happens. So I think this is a great approach, and I think the chair and the chair and the staff and the State's Attorney's Office has the ability to rightfully and justly review all of these types of things and come to a conclusion. And then as long as they're informing us, I think that's great. So I applaud the policy. I think it's a good way to go. The second thing is this particular question that is before us in terms of this bill, 3363 from the House. As I read your letter, I think it's well scripted. I think you are suggesting that we have concerns, and that suggestion is with the hope, and I think we need to continue to communicate that they will amend this bill to allow for opting out. And I think that that's our greatest hope. My sister's on the county board in Henderson County. Henderson County is very, very small, and they simply can't afford a public defender.
Sure.
I mean, that's their reality, and there's a lot of things they can't afford. They're constantly struggling to make ends meet, and so from that perspective, and for those counties that find themselves in that situation, I support this, and I'm sure they do, and I applaud that, but we just need to have the edge of being able to opt out.
And again, we were very careful in how we scripted this letter, and we don't take a position. We're just saying that there are some concerns that were raised by McHenry County. Twofold. One, you need to know, I mean, I watch this in a broad spectrum. You need to know how unusual McHenry County is in that all of our offices, constitutional as well as departments, collaborate. That is so not the usual throughout the state. As we saw at our committee meeting where people had no idea, A, that there was a piece of legislation, and B, that how it would affect them from a county board perspective. They don't even talk to their other constitutional offices. So we are unusual, and I'm very grateful. Again, you just saw that today with Rob giving the presentation. Also, the chairman may not always sign one of these letters. We certainly hope that that's the case. He has the prerogative. He is an entity, as he is elected at large in the county. He has the prerogative of creating his own letter that he would send that might have a different position or might support or oppose, right? But he will always see these letters from the committee, and if he chooses to sign on, that's why you see in concurrence, so that they understand that the chairman as well as the county board, two separate positions, are aligned. Questions?
Yes. You mentioned unfunded mandates. But Brian, I heard you mention that your sister's in a county that they can't afford it, so there's assumption that the state would pay for it. So why is there a concern that there might be an unfunded mandate with this?
So the legislation does create a state public defender fund.
Okay.
But it's subject to appropriation, so there's no guarantee of funding. The other piece, as I understand the legislation, is that the state public defender will be the one who decides who gets money, when, where, and how.
So they may do it on a need.
Right, the small-
It's unknown how it's going to be
The
done.
smaller counties may
Yeah.
get the bulk of the money
Right.
because they'll say that our property taxes are good
You
enough to pay
you
for
guys
that.
are wealthy, you
Right.
don't need it, so it
There's
becomes an
also-
unfunded mandate in that respect.
Right.
There's also another piece too. There are different philosophies on what is needed for public defenders' offices. There have been different reports over the years saying that there are different standards that should be met by public defender's office, different numbers of attorneys needed, investigators, social workers, et cetera. And again, there is no check, as the legislation is written, on what is necessarily needed at the public defender's office. So a state commission could say that McHenry County, you need to have 50 public defenders, for example, and there's nothing we can say about that, and you have to pay for it. So again, will that happen? I don't know, but there is no guarantee in the legislation as it is written now to avoid that situation. As you know, that we are undergoing a space study right now too. So again, there's a lot of different ways that we could be impacted financially should this legislation pass right now.
Any other questions on this specific policy topic?
And if this were to pass, and if there's a provision for opting out, then would that require a resolution on this board's behalf to go ahead and proceed to opt out?
It hasn't been drafted, can't answer the question, don't know what they're gonna require. Might be just simply a letter sent to
Yeah,
a specific, I don't know, right. And we may choose, I mean, it might be a board decision to choose to pass a resolution, I can't
Yeah.
answer the question.
Okay, thanks.
So I'm just gonna note in our minutes that this policy was presented and we have concurrence that this is now a way we'd like to operate. Nodding, okay, great, thank you. Looking at the legislative update, does anybody have any questions with regard to that? Or Mr. Sagar, do you have an update with
Yeah.
regard to the transit?
Yeah, very quickly, things are gelling. I've said that before, but it really does appear like things are coming together. Not so much with the funding, although that's in the pot right now. And I think the general consensus, I just had a conversation the other night with Don DeWitt, and I think the general consensus is that the labor bill is the one that's got the underlying support right now. I think you're all familiar with the labor bill. The labor bill is much aligned with our discussions previously and our hopes. There's a few things in there to kind of be ironed out, one of which is the balance of membership and the balance of voting and who those individuals are going to be and how the votes are going to be required. So that's part of it. Right now there is a wave, if you will, that the balance will pretty much stay the same as it is for the most part. The governor may or may not have an opportunity to appoint. That's still out there, and we still don't know what the governor's thinking about this. But the other thing is that there is talk about the fact that there will be requiring, in order to pass specific types of things relative to capital priority projects, budgets, bonding authority, those types of things. In order to be able to do that long-term planning, you would have to have X number of votes from each of the body units. So for example, you may require that in order to pass something, you have to have 3 votes from suburban Cook County, you have to have 3 votes from the city of Chicago, you have to have 3 votes from the Collier County at a minimum to get these things done. And that way it gets away from this ugly word of supermajority, just goes to a balanced type of approach, and there seems again to be a wave in that direction. I'm hoping that that's the one that continues. So that's kind of where we are. I do have a letter that was prepared by the RTA administration for folks that want to kind of send a sample out, to members of the legislature to kind of encourage them. If you want to do that kind of thing, if you don't want to do that, that's fine too. Just if you need that, let me know.
And we've kind of, in response to that, my only comment is we've kind of, as a committee, have left that alone, and we've left it in the hands of the chairman. I'm going to assume if the chairman would like to do that, he'll take a position. He's testified, he's been the lead on all of this. I would prefer that if that happens, it's in his hands as opposed to our hands. However, I will tell you again, politically, don't use the word supermajority, use balance, right? Right, we've changed that. And then if this does happen and we do get that balance, I would suggest that this committee as well, on behalf of the board, send a thank you letter to all of our downstate advocates, because that balance, obviously from a financial perspective, is so important for the collar counties. So it's a big deal. It's a victory. It's a huge victory.
There's been a lot of work on this, and I just cannot tell you how much Don DeWitt, Senator DeWitt, has done in this regard. He's just done the yeoman's work in this, and we really appreciate it.
And then township consolidation. You want to talk a little bit about where that is, and I'll give kind of a little synopsis behind that.
Yes, so there were a couple bills that talked about township consolidation and elimination, Senate Bill 2217 and Senate Bill 204. One of them has not moved, the other, Senate Bill 204, has now been, it's changed its sponsorship to be President Don Harmon of the Senate. So again, we're keeping an eye on it. Its committee deadline date has changed to May 9th, but again, like Pam always says, deadlines are a little bit fluid. They're more like guideposts. So again,
They're suggestions.
So again, it's a development that I'm keeping an eye on just to see where they're going, if they're going anywhere.
I'm assuming that the fact that the Senate President is now the sponsor of the legislation and it's been assigned to executive will give them the availability. If they think that there's any chance of coming to an agreement, they will have a subject matter hearing on this piece of legislation so it can move directly to the floor and return back to the House for concurrence. It's just a faster, easier, simpler way to get a bill done, particularly when there's such emotion behind it. And there still is on this, obviously, consolidation. So I'm assuming that, again, we'll watch it and see where it goes. Questions? Thank you very much. Really appreciate it. A lot of stuff going on right now. Moving on, the routine consent agenda. Does anybody have anything that they would like to remove from the consent agenda or have questions on? If there are none, I'll take a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented. Mr. Shorten, seconded by Mr. Sullivan. And as there's expenditures, may I have a roll call, please, Kathy?
Campbell.
Yes. Yes.
Steiger.
Yes.
Kunkel.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Van Hoff.
Yes.
Shorten.
Yes.
Altough.
Yes. And I apologize, I'm now looking at the notes that I made last night. So I am going back to the legislative update, just so you know. Senator Edley Allen had the social worker, the program that would add McHenry. Originally, her bill was for the entire state. We were surprised at that position, seeing as how she said she was only going to do it for McHenry. There were some conversations that were had, and just recently that bill that she is carrying in the Senate was changed to include only McHenry County as well as the Village of Skokie Police Force for monies to be allocated to any kind of police social work program. So again, we have our fingers crossed and we're hopeful that, and we should thank Representative Ness for that effort on her behalf to advocate for us. So moving on, presentation. Chief Schneider, can I invite you to come up? As you know, we appoint all of the members to various fire districts. We've been inviting those fire districts to come and kind of give us an update, talk about their strategic plan, talk about some of their challenges and opportunities. The Crystal Lake Rural Fire Department is one that we do appoint members to their board. They are a paper entity. They actually contract with the city of Crystal Lake to provide their services. So Chief Schneider is here today to kind of talk about how that works, what that opportunity is. And also, I note again to all of you, we are still looking for a person, a vacancy, correct? There's still a vacancy on, oh, Kathy, update, Kathy. Who actually controls all of this?
We have received, in the last couple of days, 2 applications that we will invite to interview next month.
Excellent. One of the members on the board is not re-upping, and so now we have 2. So thank you very much for your efforts on behalf of that as well, to get people who would apply. So Chief, I'm going to turn it over to you. I think we can do this informally, so if anybody has any questions, I think you can direct them at the Chief and he can answer, and then we'll conclude, so.
Sure. Thank you for having me, and it was great meeting all of you today. Craig Snyder, Fire Chief, Crystal Lake Fire Department. I've been Fire Chief for just over 1.5 years now. I was 24 years up in La Crosse, Wisconsin, retired from up there. Was fortunate enough to get hired at Crystal Lake as the Deputy Fire Chief almost 4 years ago now, 3.5 years. And then 1.5 years into my tenure here, I was promoted to Fire Chief in place of Paul DeRate, who, as we all know, was retired in August of 2023. So I've had the opportunity to work the fire district for a few years now. Now more specifically as a fire chief for just over 1.5 years. We have a great working relationship. We do have a contract with the district. That contract is actually set to expire April 30th of 2026. So we're just at the very preliminary edge of the tip of the spear, if you will, on working with the district board again on renewing a contract, hopefully for the next 20 or so years is typically what I understand those contracts that typically run. As Pam said, it's a paper district, it's a paper board, so the fire department, Crystal Lake Fire Department, we have our response district covers the entire fire protection district, and then we meet with the board once a month, except for February and September we don't meet, but the board comes to the fire station, we have an open board meeting. Monthly, we have communications back and forth. I present a monthly fire report to the district as to what the fire department has been doing, our number of responses to within the district, to within Lakewood, and then to within the city. We break down whether those fire responses are medical responses, rescues, fires, fire alarms, and so forth. I break that all down for the board. We talk about the fire prevention activities that we had, because we do also do their fire inspections for the limited amount of properties that they have. Any plan reviews for anything that would come if there's going to be a new build or anything like that, we would take care of that for them as well. We also do a training report to them so they understand what we've been doing as a city fire department to provide training, updating our members so that we're prepared to respond in a timely manner anywhere in the district or anywhere within our response area, 24/7, 365 days a year. We also do an annual report, and I can leave a couple copies here if anybody's interested in seeing what we're doing in Crystal Lake. Our annual report is just a synopsis of what we've done over the previous year. I actually have a couple of copies, so if you want to pass them down. It's just an annual report I present to the board then at the end of the year as to what we've done for the entire year. And again, it's just a synopsis, kind of a snapshot of the prior year. What we've done, what we've been looking forward to doing, presenting our 5 and up to now we're working on the city on a 20-year strategic plan. Currently right now I'm working on our 5-year strategic plan that will include the district, Lakewood, and the city of Crystal Lake. And the other thing, just for the fire department purposes and what we're doing to improve ourselves to serve the community better, including the district in Lakewood, is we are stepping into the window of becoming an accredited agency. So we just jumped into that in January, so we're working on accreditation purposes so we can have a third party validate the validity and what the city of Crystal Lake Fire Department does and what we have to provide for the community.
And there is, again, I point out things that I think you already know, but I have to do it. The fire department in Crystal Lake is a municipal fire department, unlike many of our others that are individual entities themselves. Can I ask too, do you know, is the tax rate for the Crystal Lake Rural Fire Department the same as the city of Crystal Lakes, or is it substantially less?
Actually, the tax rate for Lakewood and the district is less than that of the city of Crystal Lake.
So, and I don't want to get into, because it's obviously somewhat proprietary, even though I could probably FOIA the contract. Do you take that into consideration when you negotiate with, I mean, because obviously our concern is the rural fire district, not the city of Crystal Lake, who manages you just fine. But again, do you take that into consideration when you negotiate those contracts? That obviously that's a concern, that they contracted with you because they can't afford to provide that service themselves, so.
Yeah, we do. And again, you know, I haven't been a part of the contracts, you know, the
Oh, that's
previous
right. I
contracts,
apologize.
obviously,
Sure.
because I think the previous contract was 2006 or 7 when that
Yeah, it
one
was a long
was
time.
drafted. So I haven't been a part of it, but yes, you know, we do take into account the rate that we are, that the district is charging their citizens to have our services. One thing to remember is that, you know, we run about 9 to 10% of our emergency calls run out to the district. So we run about 85% of all of our calls to within the city of Crystal Lake. We're not going to change our staffing model or anything, whether we lost the contract with the district or we kept the contract with the district. So that gives us the ability to try and provide a fair rate to the people of the district, because we're not saying, well, you know, now that we have you, we have to hire 15 more people, so now we're going to charge more money. That's not necessarily the case. So, you know, even in our contract negotiations with Lakewood, we offer them the same amenities that we would the district or within the city at a little bit of a lesser rate.
Has there ever been any conversation about consolidating the Crystal Lake Rural with the city of Crystal Lake?
Not to my knowledge, but there is some negotiating and some talks going on with Lakewood and the district consolidating. So that's something that was just presented to us about a week and a half ago. So they are working together. I know Jim Militello, who is great. I love Jim. He is in one of my favorite places right now. I think he's down at Disney World this week, so I haven't had the opportunity to talk with him. But he and I will be getting together once he returns from vacation and having some discussions with the district and with Lakewood as to how that would look. And then, you know, merging those two contracts together and where we would go for the next 20 years.
I will be reaching out. As you know, Jim's the attorney for numerous fire districts in the area. But I'd be real curious as to what he kind of advises you and how maybe we could redo those fire district boundaries. I don't know if it's going to be more difficult because you guys are a city department versus a district, but I'd be real curious.
Yeah, I actually have a map of the boundaries here, and interestingly enough, when I was looking at the map previous when this conversation came up, the district actually covers a large portion of the village of Lakewood already. So there are only a couple of small spots of Lakewood that do not fall within the district boundaries. So I think what they would be doing is just looking to rewrite that district boundary around Lakewood and then keep the, you know, we'd have the city boundary and then just the district boundary as opposed to having kind of that Lakewood one kind of intertwined in between there.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sager?
Chief, can you tell me what is the population in the municipal boundaries and combined the rural district?
Sure. So within our municipal city boundaries, we're about 43,000, give or take. Our entire response district is 57,000.
Okay.
I think about 4,000 to 5,000 of those are in Lakewood, and the rest would be within the district boundaries.
Okay, and what's the square miles differential?
The square mile differential is, I believe, 18. Don't quote me on that, but I believe it's an 18 square mile difference.
Right, and so the city of Crystal Lake encompasses what area?
The large portion of it. I actually have a map of it right there if you want to see it. So this would be the district boundary here, and the yellow would be the city of Crystal Lake boundary.
Do we have that, Pete?
All right.
That's actually on our website
That's on
too.
the
Anybody
website.
can pull that right up off our city website as well.
Okay,
That's actually where I printed that one.
thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for Chief Snyder? Again, thank you so much.
Just real quickly, so when you say papers, just because they're not providing, the rural district is not providing the service, you guys are.
Right, yeah, they have no
They're
buildings, they
collecting
have
the
no
levy.
equipment. They, you know, it's just basically the board, and we provide everything else. So yeah, they don't have a station, they don't have any equipment, they don't have any gear or anything like that they provide. We provide that 100%. They're just the board that is operating, you know, their expenditures and so forth within the district.
And again, as we've talked in the past, I would like to continue to pursue some conversations about how we can be more efficient. And I think the big obstacle always is the tax rate and trying to make that the same so that, you're getting equal share of the responsibility, financial responsibility. But I still would like to pursue, if there's not an opportunity, to just redesign and consolidate or do whatever. Because as you can hear, this has been going on for almost 30-some years, right? Right. So, we'll see. Again, any other questions for Chief? Thank you again. I really, really appreciate
my
you
pleasure.
taking the time.
I appreciate you having me today.
Yeah, Mr. Smith.
Do you have any excess equipment that you're trying to get rid of?
No, this is really good. Go
We actually do put some equipment in the city auction every year. I think they're doing auctions 3 times a year now within the city. They just the Public Works Department handles that. I think we did just auction off an old ambulance and the old squad vehicle. I think coming up, we have a couple of small Ford Escapes maybe that are gonna be going out the door. As far as large apparatus goes, I don't know if any of you keep up in the fire world, and Chief Kimmel will absolutely, I'm sure, be able to concur with me. Right now, post-COVID, getting equipment is brutal. Absolutely just the worst it's ever been. So we did order 2 brand new fire engines within the city here just about a year ago now. I won't take delivery of them until February of 2028. So you can mark on your calendar, March of 2028, I'll have 2 engines that'll probably go up on auction at some point. 2 Spartan engines will be going, but right now we just can't get equipment anything faster than, if you're getting it in 3 years, you're batting really well right now. 4 years is about the average to get anything in. That's including ambulances. We had ordered 2 ambulances in 2023. Chief DeRate ordered them just prior to his retirement in June. We were supposed to get them July of this year, then they moved us to October, then they moved us to January, and now we're back to June of 2026. So that'll be a 3-year period even just to get our ambulances in, which are generally 24 months. That was pretty common. Now they're talking 36 to 40 months on getting that in. So unfortunately, it's putting a pinch on our fire services, but fortunately we have a very good maintenance program within the city, and so we're able to upkeep the equipment that we have right now.
You have the floor, sir.
May I?
Yes, please.
The city of Woodstock has sister city programs with the state of Zacatecas and the city of Guadalupe and the city of Zacatecas, which is also in the state of Zacatecas. And so we have relationships with them. We just celebrated about 22 years in that relationship. I've had numerous exchanges, including fire rescue personnel, and there's going to be another group of them coming up, spending time in both Woodstock as well as in Dundee, or Carpentersville, excuse me. The challenge that they have down there is they've got a population in the municipal area of Guadalupe of 211,000 people, just over, and 314 square miles. And this is their fire engine for service.
It's basically a truck with a large thing of water.
It's like that.
Container of water.
We are trying to work with them. We just took down 4 Jaws of Life and the compressors to assist them in their efforts. We're trying to locate equipment for them. And right now, we realize that a fire truck is a major, major investment, and so we understand the challenges that you just outlined. We had sent down a fire truck about 8 years ago. Unfortunately, about a year and a half ago, a cement truck ran into it when it was in service on a site, and it destroyed it completely. So this is what they're using. We're just trying to supplement with these types of things because they know how to use this, but supplement these types of things until we can eventually get a fire truck. So if you have any spare equipment of this type, what do you call this? It's a caged tank, I guess. Is that what they call it?
It's just a large, seriously, it's a large plastic tub on the back of a drum.
Caged tank.
Like
I think it's like 330 gallons of water, and then a pump with a 3-inch I know not what I'm speaking, but it's got a 3-inch valve or outlet, you know, and a pump that provides pressure, and it does basically nothing. But they need some more of these because this is it.
I don't know if you've ever spoke with Rob Cruz, owns Ultra Strobe within the city of Crystal Lake. Rob Cruz actually bought one of our previous engines on auction, and Chief Kimmel, you know, I think he donated it to Wonder Lake, and he sold it to him for $1. I don't know, you know, what Wonder Lake's status is with that engine at this point in time, but you know, he's kind of a person that kind of knows how to get a hold of that type of equipment. I think he bought it for $3,500. I mean, which is incredible, seeing as it was a $500,000 piece of equipment when it was new. The new engines I just ordered were $1.2 million a piece.
Right.
So, you know, yeah, when you talk about the inflationary amount that we're charging and getting for this equipment right now is just absolutely crazy. But Rob Cruz, I think, would be a good person to follow up with. He owns Ultra Strobe right in Crystal Lake there. He does a lot of the work in the whole area. He upfits both police and fire with lights, sirens, you know, operational light, you know, equipment and so forth.
Well, I appreciate it very much. I appreciate just if you can help spread the word. I know we're Woodstock and you're Crystal Lake, and I understand all that, but at the same time.
Right, but also there's a financial situation. If the city can obviously auction it and get X amount of dollars to offset, that's the biggest problem, I think. But again, if Mr. Cruz donated, maybe it's easier for him to do that, or there's a tool in
even
place.
just some small things, if you know of a water pump that's sitting around or something like that, you know.
Certainly.
Yeah, some hose.
And they can fix anything and
that's the point. I mean, these can be
honest
old
to
things
God.
and there's no regulations there. So if you have fire hose or anything like that, that
Yeah,
might
we
be
just
better.
donated about 80 pieces of turnout gear, firefighter turnout gear. Last year when we got brand new ones, we donated it through an outfit through, one of my firefighters works with another guy who does that very same thing. They do donations down to third world areas, and we just donated all of our spare our turnout gear to them.
And we've sent a lot of that down there too. In fact, we sent a busload of turnout gear from Carpentersville and Woodstock.
Sure.
But it's really important, so.
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to help out any way I can.
And before I let you go, one of the conversations we've been having with all of our districts is the challenge they have of finding people. Are you guys experiencing that, or because you're a municipal department, you don't nearly have as much challenge in finding new employees to fill those positions?
I'm 9 short right now.
Wow.
9 positions short. We've been short since I've gotten here. Anywhere, I think the closest we were to full staffing was 5. So it is a little bit misleading, and I will just full disclosure on it is the city of Crystal Lake City Council approved. So one of the things when I came in to this department, that I come from a department in La Crosse, Wisconsin, that I had a minimum of 24 people on a day, minimum staffing, same size city as Crystal Lake, run the same amount of calls as Crystal Lake. Crystal Lake, we run 15 minimum on a day. So I have 2-person engine companies, and I'm a firm believer in 4-person engine companies in the fire service. And Chief Kimmel, again, every fire chief in the nation battles this battle with staffing, and because we do have a lot of standby time, we do have a lot of downtime. But as our sheriff department was here, when we need the people, we need the people. I had crews, actually 2 crews on site during that entire incident, which now took away my ability to respond anywhere else. They sat there for almost 6 hours that day. So I was able to get the city council to approve hiring of 12 more. So now my engine company is starting, as soon as I get the staffing, we'll be up to 3-person engine companies as opposed to the 2-person we're running right now. So 6 of those 9 are approved over hires that we had from last year and this year, but I'm 3 short from the original minimum staffing numbers. I can't fill the extra 6 seats in January. I'll have 3 more that were approved because we approved the 12 positions over 4 years, 3 a year. So 24, 25, 26, and 27. So once I reach 26, I'll have 3 more positions available, and I just can't get the numbers in the door. You know, we always talk about the good old days, you know, even 10 and 20 years ago, or when I started 30 years ago in the fire service, there were 250 people for every 1 job that was available, and you were lucky to get on anybody's list, and now it's almost the opposite. You have 10 jobs for every 15 candidates, and not all the candidates make it through. Maybe background checks or polygraphs or psych evals, they end up failing out. And so then if I have 10 people on my list, Chief Kimmel's probably got the same 10 people on his list, Arlington's got the same 10 people, Bloomington's got the same 10. These candidates they know that they're really wanted and needed, so they cast a wide net on where they're testing because they know they're gonna get a job somewhere. And what often happens, and I'm experiencing it right this very moment because I have a list right now and I have 5 offers out. 3 of them are waiting on standby because they have offers from 2 other departments and they're trying to make up their mind as to who they wanna go to. That's the fight that we fight nowadays as fire chiefs. It's not just about coming and being in the fire service, but what type of equipment are you running? What type of station life do you have? What type of gear do you wear? How much money are you gonna pay me? What are my times off? They can shop around and they can just take the best offers and go where they want. And it's never been that way in the history of the fire. Maybe in the last 4 or 5 years now, we've since the COVID epidemic again. Right prior to that, we started seeing a real shortage of young people who wanted to go into emergency services overall, whether that's the state of Illinois lost 22,000 paramedics between 2023 and 2024. That was through a retirement, movement, and attrition. We lost 23,000 paramedics and didn't replace any of them. And it wasn't because we weren't trying, it's just because the candidates and the interest out there has been very low for the youth nowadays. And I don't understand why that is, but.
I was gonna ask that question.
Yeah, I was gonna-
It's nationwide. It's not just Illinois. My old department in La Crosse, Wisconsin, we had a list of 50 people all the time. If they have 7 now, they're excited.
What about retention? How does that affect retention for you guys too?
So again, back in the good old days, you got on a fire department and that was your career.
Right.
You were there for the pension, you were there for the insurance, you were there to raise your family. But now, again, we see younger people coming in and they're a little bit more transient, they're a little bit more mobile, and they come in and they get their feet wet and they get some training, they get some opportunity, and all of a sudden they get some more certifications and they say, oh, another bigger fire department is hiring somewhere else and they're gonna pay me a little bit more money, so now I'll jump over that fire department. So where we used to have that real high retention rating from firefighters, it's getting a little bit less and less and less. You'll still find those ones that want to come in and they want to make their career at that department. But again, kids nowadays are mobile and transient and they want to go wherever seems exciting to them for whatever reason. Maybe they came from the east side of the state and they came over here for a job and now they have an opportunity to go back to where they were. So now they'll take that opportunity. And again, the opportunities are there where they never were 10, 15, 20 years ago to move.
Mr. Shorten, then Ms. Van Hoff.
I think you already answered my question, which was why. It sounds like there's a lot of different factors, but there's no
One reason.
one thing that we can put a pin on.
Yeah, I don't think there is one real good reason. I think kids when they move away and then they want to move back to their home areas, that's one major reason. But another one is pay. There are departments in the state that are starting their firefighters out at $90,000 a year. And,
like nursing.
When I started, I made $10.14 an hour. And that was pretty good wage back then. So nowadays, when you have the contracts that some of these unions are negotiating with their governmental agencies and they're bringing these people in at $90,000, that's pretty good money for a 21, 22, 23-year-old kid to step into, and so they take those opportunities. Other opportunities are more call volume. I want to go somewhere that runs more calls. I don't want to be in a department that's running 5 or 6 or 7,000 calls a year. I want to be in a department that's running 12, 13, 14 to 20,000 calls a year. So they that excitement of the job. What they don't realize is when they become old, like Chief Kimmel and I, no offense, when they become old like us, you don't want 20,000. You don't want to be woken up all night long. You cherish your sleep and your ability to get that downtime. But the kids nowadays, they want that excitement.
Don't you think part of this?
Wait, Mr. Shorten still has the floor.
Have the educational requirements changed over the years historically?
So one of my biggest pet peeves in the fire service, and this has nothing to do with any one location, but we have different requirements across the country for what you need. If you want to be a firefighter in Texas, you better have gone to the Texas State Fire College or you will never get hired in the state of Texas. If you want to be a firefighter in Florida, you better have gone to Seminole State Fire School because you will not get a job in Florida. If you want to be in Illinois, you better have gotten your certifications from the OSFM, State Fire Marshal's Office, because it is very difficult to move out of state, in the state. So every location in every area has different requirements. I'm guessing Chief Kimmel and I probably have different requirements just between our municipality or our fire departments on what we ask for. Crystal Lake, we require you to be a paramedic to come in the door. Because we have no part-time positions in our department. We're a full-time paramedic agency. Other departments that are fire protection districts, they'll bring them in on part-time and they'll bring them in as an EMT, let them work up to that paramedic level and then hire them in on a full-time, but they have that part-time window for them to come in. Some agencies require an associate's degree in fire science to be able to get in. Other ones just require you have attended a fire academy. I don't require either of those things. You come to my department, I'll send you. In fact, I was just at MCC's graduation last night for one of my students that's joined our department in February. He graduated the academy last night and will now come in. So I'll send you to the academy at our expense. So it's different across the board, what the departments are requiring. And state to state that's a whole different thing.
Ms. Van Hoff, did you still have a question?
Yes. You mentioned COVID. Now, I know that in long-term care, where I worked for a long time, after COVID hit, we just had a heck of a time trying to hire people, ready to come back in the field. And so you have firefighters that are trained to work, as paramedics and that kind of thing. So I wonder if COVID didn't have some effect on that.
I think COVID did a lot of things to us. I think one of the things that it did was it vastly restricted the availability of schools and places where kids could go to learn the trade that they needed to learn because they were closed down. There were colleges across the country that literally closed their doors because they took such a hit during that time. They just didn't have enrollment anymore because it was such that heightened fear and awareness of going and sitting in a classroom amongst your peers. So I think the availability of classes and the training to get them to the point to where they needed to be. And at that point, they started filtering out to different things. I'll be 55 this year. I don't even know what TikTok is. I've never used it. I don't ever plan on using it. But these kids nowadays, I have a 25-year-old son and him and his girlfriend are on there all the time. They swear they're gonna make $1 million one day off a TikTok video. But those are the types of things nowadays that I think kids are interested in, is that media production things and whatever they're gonna be able to do to get their face out there. And I don't understand it, but again, I don't try to understand it either. Maybe that's my fault. But so I think there are a lot of other available opportunities that kids are looking at. Now, I have seen just over the last 6 to 12 months a little bit of an uptick. I know MCC's classrooms are full right now. They're having a hard time. They actually have, Chief, if you help me remember, we just had our meeting with our EMS district, our Region 9 meeting, and I think they said they had 78 paramedic candidates, but they're only gonna have 30 seats available in class for next fall. So that's 48 kids that aren't gonna be able to get into that paramedic program because they can only handle so many students. So I think you're starting to see maybe a little bit of bounce back within those areas, but again, if the schools can't handle the number of students coming in, on the other end, Chief Kimmel and I are still suffering because we're only getting a few coming out. It's like a funnel. They bring them all in and they all get jammed up in that funnel and only a few get through at a time and then we're all fighting for them. So, maybe more availability, educational wise would be great. Maybe a little bit more collaboration between our regions would be great. I don't have the answer, but, those are things that we could potentially explore.
Mr. Sager? No. Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, how many of them pass the psychological, or how many of them have an issue with passing that portion?
So I actually had, I just put 10 people through polygraph exams, all 10 of them passed. That's the first time that's happened for me. Typically, I probably see about a 20-30% failure rate on those. And then the psychological exam, again, probably a 20 to 30% failure rate on that. So There's arguments whether they're valid or not, testing for these programs, but, you have to have a baseline and a standard somewhere
Do
along the
you
way.
happen to know, is it the MMPI?
I don't.
Okay, I know that's what the sheriff's department uses here. And it's typically the one that's used because it has so many lie filters, so, if you're lying, it's gonna catch you.
Yeah, and actually, I was interviewing a candidate, and he was kind of talking about the polygraph. He's like, boy, that thing was really hard. They asked me a question, have you ever stolen from an employer? He's like, well, when I was 16, I worked at McDonald's, and I ate some French fries. Was I stealing from my employer? Technically, I was. So I answered the question yes, and I passed. So, but if you never thought about something like that, does your your psyche kind of go, oh, yeah, I had my boss had a pen on his desk, and I took it to use it, and I forgot to put it back, and so technically, yes, I did. But, I clocked out 5 minutes early and took off. I owed him 5 minutes. So, those types of questions on there, depending on your background and what you think in your head, how these things happen, could potentially fail you on a test if there's a little lingering guilt in there.
That's interesting.
Ms. Campbell?
So the pension, I think that it's harder too, I think, for younger people to understand the benefit.
That's right.
The pension system, I really do. Because we have this all the time even with our local government or county government, is that we have to compete for salary, but because the long-term vision of not understanding that long-term protection through the pension system, that doesn't seem to be a really motivating factor for coming the younger you are. And I believe and you can take your pension with you from municipality to municipality or no?
You can. You have to buy some years out, depending on where you're going, or you can cash out on there, from there. But state to state, you can cash out, but you can't take it with. I couldn't take my Wisconsin pension into Illinois when I came in.
But it stays within Illinois, so that's why you can move so freely between
You can, yeah, you can move them.
Because it used to be that you had, I know with police, maybe not necessarily fire, that pension system was in your municipality. That was a long time ago.
Well, they can.
Easier lift.
But, that was a long time ago. But
Yeah, so our municipalities are still the ones covering and paying your pension, but we're all in the downstate system.
Okay,
So,
yes.
so yeah, you can bring it with. Some of them will charge you a little bit of money to move from one to the other. The other thing is in reality, and again, coming from out of state, when I moved down here and realized that went from the tier 1 to the tier 2 pension system, that took a big hit, not only to the emergency services, but to educators and nurses. You're dumped into that tier 2 system now. I'll tell you, and again, coming from the pension system I came from, looking at my pension system, the tier 2, I'd go to Wisconsin and work because it's a better pension system right now than the tier 2 system is in your longevity of staying. Minnesota's 20 years and out. If I'm a 23-year-old kid, I can go work 20 years in Minnesota, retire out my pension at 43 years old and start a whole nother life somewhere, where, the tier 2 system is kind of put a little crimp in that for Illinois. It's not as attractive as it previously had been.
And only because we hadn't funded the tier 1 pensions adequately, so we had to come up with, and and then think of the unintended consequences of that.
But I think you're absolutely right. Kids don't look 30 years down the road or 25 years down the road. Where am I going to be? They're looking for what am I doing this week, next week, and maybe the week after. I can't even get my son to commit for Mother's Day, I'll tell you what I'm doing tomorrow is basically what their attitudes are, so it's
A little different. Anything else? Again, our deep appreciation for you taking the time and appearing before us today. And if there's anything that we can do to help you, please let us know.
Sure will, absolutely, thank you.
Thank you.
I want to find Rob.
Come on up, John. Chief.
Ultra scroll.
ULTRA.
And you have to forgive me, Chief Kimmel, I can't remember, did we have you come back again to talk about Marengo and give us an update on Harvard, or did we invite you to talk about Harvard and give us an update on Marengo? I don't know which one it was.
It was Harvard, Marengo, all of the above.
And the last time you were here, you did talk to us about some opportunities that you were investigating. Maybe you can give us a little bit of a status update on that as well.
For the Marengo portion? Okay, so yeah, last time I was here, for those of you who weren't here last time, John Kimmel, been the chief of Marengo Fire and Marengo Rescue for about 5 years. I'm also the chief in Harvard now. I'm not interim anymore. I've been there for 2 years. I'll be there for at least another year. But last time I was here, we talked a little bit about Marengo Union, some potential consolidation talks. Since then, we did have a meeting with the two boards. It was a good discussion. I think it was a good starting point. It's about time to have another meeting. I'll be reaching out to their chief here in the next couple of days. That's from the request of the Marengo boards asking me to reach back out to see where we're at with that. But basically those conversations was a lot of just feeling each other out and kind of where we're at, what it would take, what that process would look like. Are there any obstacles or hurdles that we see? I'll use the word egos, if they were going to get in the way or any of that, which I don't think that's the issue. There was more concern of, is it fiscally the right thing to do for the citizens of Union? Obviously, their call volume is much lower. Because Marengo Rescue Squad, 85% of what we do is EMS, and that's across the county, right? And so with Union, they cover strictly fire. They don't do any EMS. Or Marengo Rescue covers the village of Union and the Union Fire District. So their call volume, they're about 130-ish, 135 calls a year, of which a majority are mutual aid or joint responses with Marengo. Border calls, things like that. So it was a question of, is it fiscally responsible on their end to consolidate and then add staffing? One of the things that we approach them with is, we look at it as based on what their budget is. We can add a third person in the village of Union right now. Marengo Rescue has an ambulance and a station separate from Union Fire in Union right now. And that's staffed with either a firefighter EMT or a firefighter paramedic. So if we were to consolidate, we could add that third person, and then we would staff that with an engine. We call it jump company. They could go out for a fire in an engine, or they could ambulance call. They could go out in an ambulance. So that would give them 24/7 fire coverage within the Union Fire District. Some of the other things we looked at was our equipment and what that looked like, and potential debt, those types of things. And these were just just off-the-cuff conversations that we were having, and I think it went really well. I think we sit down again. I know it's gained some traction within the communities. I've had citizens approach me and ask me about it and my thoughts and opinions. I know there's been some changeover with their trustees. They've had one trustee that's since retired and a new one that's going to be appointed, I believe, this month in May. So it went well. I don't say
Are they elected?
What's that?
Are they elected to
They
their
are.
positions? And we appoint
Marengo
the
Rescue.
rescue. So has there been any conversation on which way you go? Would you retain that election provision, or?
I would like to retain the elected. I think it's a good way to go. I think that initially, and this would be long term. We'd have to work with the state's attorney on this. Is putting that question together in terms of, because it's elected, appointed, and I think
correct
for the question to not be so confusing would be to have this committee initially appoint that board and then set the term limits and the election dates from that point forward. I think it makes it an easier, cleaner question if you were to put that on the ballot versus, hey, we're going to consolidate. I would add that, it would be no tax increase.
The tax rates are the same.
Because all of the tax rates are the same. That was the biggest hang up for years and years, is there was such a discrepancy in the tax rates. And it didn't make sense for us. Now it makes sense. And again, this is my opinion, and I would, obviously ask you to talk to Union's board and get their opinions on it, because they may differ. But
how many seats do they have on that?
they have 3.
3, and you have 3.
I have 3 on Marengo Fire and 5 on Marengo Rescue that you guys appointed.
Okay, so maybe would there be, that's what I'm saying, consideration of retaining the 5 and then going to the election? I'm just asking, because as you guys continue your conversations, just let us know where you get, so that we're all on the same page and we're not making suggestions of something that doesn't conform to what your conversations are.
I think it's kind of unique right now in the fact that we have several trustees on all 3 boards that are probably towards the end of their terms and ready to step away. And I kind of went through it, and I really think there would probably be out of all 3 districts, all the trustees, there'd probably be maybe 6 or 7 that would be wanting to stick around, and that could be less, with the new district. So I think for us, a good example that's happening right now, and that as a county we should look at, is if you look at Walworth County, they are going through a bunch of changes in Walworth County right now with consolidation. You have towns like Fontana and Lynn that are consolidating. Walworth is consolidating. I mean, so they're doing it. I think when this is all done, you're probably going to see 3 districts in Walworth County by the time all of these districts come together and consolidate. So I've been keeping an eye on that and looking at what they're doing and how they're doing it. And obviously it's Wisconsin. They're probably going to follow some different rules, but the concept is the same of what.
Well, we're listening to your comments about the challenges that you're experiencing in finding people, and if it makes sense to provide services and maybe reduce those challenges in maintaining all those different departments. Consolidation would potentially be an answer if the people felt that that was in their best interest. So we really appreciate, again, you're just coming and giving us updates and letting us know if we can assist you in any way whatsoever. We're all here to serve the same people, so it would be great. And then any comments on what's going on in Harvard? And congratulations, glad they decided to keep you another year. Yay.
Yeah. Well, we passed our referendum, which was exciting. The first time around was a little bit challenging. I think the second time around, we got the word out a lot better. We focused on social media a little bit more, and it had a lot more involvement from the community, which was nice. The first time we just, you get the backlash on social media without people coming and getting educated. This time, we actually had people come and get educated, which was nice. It's not a long-term fix, but it's a fix. 500,000 is what we're going to see in an increase per year.
Nice.
Which, when you need to order equipment and you need to add staffing, that's going to go really, really quick. So Harvard is what we've started doing now. We've had one meeting, the trustees, myself, and my staff. We're sitting down. They had when Motorola came in, they brought in McGrath in 2007 and did a audit and a master plan for their district. So we're going through this. When I came into Harvard, I went through it. There's really not a lot that's changed. Those same challenges are still there. So even though it's from 2007, it's still relevant today. So we're going through that. We're identifying things. We're putting together a plan of where we want to see the district go. So in a year from now, when we need to make decisions where I'm going, if I'm staying, if I'm going, we've got that plan in place. So it's nice. They've got a good group of trustees. They work well together. They're moving things forward. We do have challenges. We're going to have to order equipment. Our equipment is extremely old. And as Chief Schneider said, we're $1.5 million, to 2 million sometimes for equipment. But we are looking at doing a joint purchase with Marengo Fire and Harvard Fire. So if we can get some breaks on that by ordering 2 at the same time, we can each save a little bit of money there.
Can I ask, how many of your calls from Marengo and Harvard are mutual? I mean,
Several.
Well, give me a percentage.
Percentage, I'd say with our Fire West group, which is Marengo, Union, Harvard, Woodstock, I'd say probably 20.
Okay. Out of how many a year? 100 and?
Marengo, we're just over 2,000, right around 2,000 calls a year. Harvard's about 1,500.
20%, yeah, I got you. Yeah, I got that.
Because we call it, it's a Fire West group. And mainly what we do is we share a channel of frequency, and then mutual aid, auto aid, all that, we go to each other all the time.
Well, you know where I'm going with that, right? I mean, I could see Marengo, and then I could see us maybe even thinking Harvard. Certainly not tomorrow, but
right.
If the challenge is financially.
A couple of the trustees in Harvard have mentioned that and talked about that.
Yeah, we've talked about that a little bit.
My focus is Marengo Union. I really want to see that through. Just because it just makes too much sense. And can I see a Harvard deal? Sure. And I see there's other departments in the county that could probably benefit from that as well. Because we're unique. Marengo, we're full-time, we're in the downstate pension, right, but we have part-timers as well. So whereas Harvard, it's all part-time. You know, union is obviously their volunteer callback, you know, they do get paid per call when they come back. So there are some challenges there, but, you know, they're easily accomplished. You know, it's just getting that plan in place, getting everybody on the same page and working for what is obviously best for the citizens of all the towns.
And I always look at it as you should look at it from that perspective. My perspective is, how do we provide the best possible services to the most people for the least amount of money, right?
Right.
And so that's why you have to consider kind of outside the box sometimes.
Yep.
And then obviously, as you just did, educate your constituency and try and convince them that, you know, it's an option. They should
And
think
there's
about
been
it.
some changes in, you know, the village board and union and you know, I've spoken with the new mayor coming into Marengo about it and
great guy.
You know, they're very interested to see where it goes. I mean, obviously they don't control the districts, but you know, they have to answer to their citizens too and what's going on there, so.
Well, and again, I look at it particularly if, from our perspective, all of the economic development, industrial develops as we extend, you know, 23 and 90. You're gonna need a fire department that can handle that, right? So.
And I'll probably be coming back to the county because I've already put a plan together for our station that we're gonna put down there. And I want it to be a joint venture with the county sheriffs, you know, the highway department, ourselves, the city of Marengo. The city of Marengo is already looking to put a water tower and a well there. So it could be a good thing in the future.
Again, I'm open it up to questions from anybody else. Otherwise, I thank you for.
I just had one
Please,
comment,
Ms.
one
Van Hoff.
question. You mentioned that now the tax rate has kind of leveled off. So what was the imbalance before?
So the imbalance is actually Union was the highest tax rate of the three entities.
I totally would not have guessed that.
So Marengo, we ran a referendum, 7 years ago now, 6 or 7 years ago now. Marengo Fire and Marengo Rescue to raise ours up to the cap. And we actually had to go to, at the state level to get it changed at the state level because rescue districts were capped at 0.2, where fire districts were at 0.4. And if you provided EMS, you could go up to an additional 0.4 in your levy. So we got that changed so the rescue district could go up to 0.4 now, so it was equal.
I
So
remember
now
that.
all at 0.4. Yeah. It was,
You were downstate then? Yeah. Okay, cool. That was a really smart thing to do.
so we're all at the same playing field now, so.
Cool.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you.
All right, thanks for
Keep us
having me.
updated and let us know, again, if we can do anything, assist you, provide resources, whatever. Otherwise, communication is crucial and we do talk, so
We
that's
do
good.
talk.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you for
Chief, really
coming.
appreciate it. And to all of you, I hope that you don't mind that this is, again, something I was extraordinarily anxious about providing you the opportunity to hear from these people. We appoint them and then they kind of go off into their own little venue and we never hear again. I think it's terribly important that we hold them accountable for what they're doing, seeing as how we put them in those positions. We have no old business. We do not need an executive session, so I would take a motion to adjourn.
I make
Ms.
that
Van
motion.
Hoff, seconded by Mr. Shorten. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Have a lovely